We'll go ahead and give it about 2 minutes so we can let all of our attendees kind of file in today. Just a few housekeeping things. We are recording this session. And also, if you are going to participate in our Q&A today, please use the Q&A feature on the Zoom call. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure we'll have a few last minute folks join us, but go ahead and, like I said, if you're going to use the Q&A feature today, we'll go ahead and use that one instead of the chat so we can answer your questions. Real quick, my name is Amy Pakes. I'm a graduate program coordinator here at the LBJ school. I'm joined today by a colleague of mine and then two of our current students who we're really excited to have here with us. My colleague Laura Roach is also a graduate program coordinator at the LBJ school, and then you'll have a chance to meet our two students in just a second. Today's presentation will kind of take place in, I guess, 2 or 3 chunks. The first chunk will cover, what we're all about, what the school has to offer you, our different degree programs, and so on. And then the second chunk will cover our application process, application requirements, all that good stuff. And then, of course, we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. But if there are any questions, please feel free to use our Q&A. My colleague Laura is monitoring that and is happy to answer your questions. So first up, we're going to talk about our 5 graduate programs. We have our Masters of Public Affairs program, or our MPAth program, our Master of Global Policy Studies program, or MGPS. Both of those programs have a DC concentration, either MPAth or MGPS, and we'll talk about what that means in just a second. We also offer a PhD in public policy, and then we have an executive master's in public leadership program. I'll go ahead and touch a little bit on all of these. Obviously, our biggest program is going to be our public affairs program, but each of these programs plays a part in what we do. So happy to touch on any of those as needed. So you might be wondering, why LBJ? That's, I think, a very valid question. A few things about us. First off, we're the number one public affairs school in the state of Texas, according to the U.S. News and World Report. That's something that we're very proud of. It's always nice to, I guess, have that sort of accolade because people all over the world can see those ratings. We also have a relatively robust alumni network of over 4,300 alumni worldwide, and they're all very active in what we do. We'll talk a little bit more about their involvement in the school in just a second, but mainly they're eager and excited to help prospective students and current students with job search, internship search, talking about classes, all that good stuff. We are in the top 10 best graduate public affairs schools in the country as well, according to the US News and World Report. And then we also have a 7-to-1 student to faculty ratio. This is something we also try to maintain even as our numbers kind of grow. We really want to promote an intimate classroom experience. We want you to be able to get to know your classmates and get to know the faculty. We also have a few other points that we like to make when talking to prospective students. The first one is our value. We are consistently recognized as being one of the best values in higher education. Our tuition costs are among the lowest in the country for public affairs programs, and that's something that we're really proud of. We also offer about 60% of our students fellowship packages, either incoming students or current students. So there's a lot of opportunity to achieve funding, either at the time of admission or throughout your graduate program. We also are very proud of the research that our students and faculty put into place. We really try to emphasize, I guess, what we call the fifth class. So as a LBJ school student, you'll take 4 classes every semester, and research is part of what we call the fifth class, which basically is the things that you're doing outside of the classroom to grow and develop. We also encourage students to make connections. One of the benefits of being a public affairs school tied to a presidential library is that we have the opportunity to bring in national and international speakers from all over the world who can talk to our students and meet with our students about their work. And I think that's really a key part of what we do. Like I said, our alumni network is also incredibly active too. We also pride ourselves on being customizable. A lot of our students have the opportunity to pursue dual degrees or portfolio programs. They have the opportunity to take classes from across campus. They're not necessarily locked into what LBJ has to offer. And they really have the opportunity to hear and meet with other people from all over campus. And then of course, Austin is truly the city of the future. It is truly a place to be. There's always something going on. Even with COVID going on, the city has still found a way to maintain resiliency. And so we are truly one of the up and coming cities across the country. And that's something that we're really excited to be a part of. So first, I'll talk a little bit about our public affairs program. Like I said, this is our largest program. And the purpose of this program is that it examines policy through a domestic lens. It is a 48-hour course load. You take 27 hours of your core coursework and then 21 hours of electives. And like I said about our degree being customizable, these electives can be taken anywhere from across campus. We also require a 400-hour internship, something typically either state and local government or nonprofit, all that good stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about where our students intern kind of later on, but it is a requirement to graduate. And then we also have, like I said, some formal mechanisms for degree customization. You'll hear from one of our students who's a dual degree student. There are specializations and portfolios that you can build out your sort of policy area of interest by taking courses across campus. We also offer a Master of Global Policy Studies. This program examines policy through a global lens, so taking a look at how different international governing bodies interact with each other. This program requires 49 semester hours of coursework, and it's slightly different. The breakdown is listed there for you, so you have a chance to read it. But basically, this degree program requires an additional hour of what we call the global crisis simulation. This is offered every other year, and every student who enrolls in this degree program takes it at some point. And essentially it is a 1-hour course that is a weekend long model UN. So you're working with other students in the program to sort of problem solve and troubleshoot a simulation, like a crisis, I guess. I think that they have been put on by the Army War College. They've been put on by various groups who had these simulations done before, and it consistently gets, I guess, recognized as being one of our students' favorite courses. And like the public affairs program, this degree program also requires a 400-hour internship. The only difference is that this has to be somewhat internationally focused. It does not have to be international, but it just has to be serving an organization that has an international scope. And then also in this degree program, students are required to select a specialization. So essentially what a specialization is, it is a grouping of 5 electives that all sort of fall under one umbrella term. The example that I like to use, this was a student who got to create her own specialization, but she found 5 courses from across campus that all fell under some sort of counterterrorism policy, I guess, umbrella. And so that was what she declared her specialization as. So you have some flexibility there, and your graduate advisor will work with you on, I guess, building out what that would look like for you. You can I guess, select a predetermined specialization for the public affairs program, but it's not required. So a lot of our students for that program like to just take whatever they'd like. As I mentioned, both of these programs have a DC concentration, and essentially what that is it's an accelerated master's program. Sorry, you finish in 18 months as opposed to 24. This degree program is designed for students who typically have a goal of working in federal policy. A lot of the courses are taking a look at how Congress works, what life is like in Washington, D.C., public management, working with state and local budgets, all that good stuff. You do your first 2 semesters here in Austin, and then in May of your program, in May, I guess, of the spring semester, you'll move up to Washington, D.C. and take courses at our Washington Center. This is a fairly small program. We typically sit at about 15 every year. And really it is designed for students who are interested in working in DC after graduation, although that is not a requirement to participate in the program. We keep talking about the customization opportunities for this degree, and this is part of it. We offer 27 different dual degree programs for both the MPAF program and the MGPS program. All of these degree programs are typically 3 years, with the exception of our dual degree with the law school, which is 4 years. For applying for a dual degree, essentially depending on which dual degree you're applying for, you'll submit 1 application through Apply Texas, and then supplemental documents for both programs. And then both programs will make an individual decision on your application. So what this means is you could be admitted into one program and not the other, and that's okay. You can still be admitted as a single degree student through either the LBJ school or the other department. If you decide to apply for a single degree and aren't really sure, but you're thinking about applying for a dual degree, you can also do that in your first semester of graduate study. We typically say that students can apply to add on a dual degree as long as you have not completed more than 50% of your core coursework. So that typically is completed in the first semester. So you apply in the fall of 2021, that's when you start, and you're going to apply for a dual degree in that semester. You would start your dual degree in the fall of 2022, which is crazy to think about. And then of course we have our PhD program. PhD is a little bit different. We have a much smaller cohort for this program. We typically admit anywhere between 4 and 7 students every year. And the PhD is really designed, obviously, to complete a dissertation in about 4 years. Obviously, our program is going to be broken up into the first and second year, and then the second or I'm sorry, the first and second year and the third and fourth year. The first and second year is going to be establishing, I guess, the foundation for what your dissertation is going to cover, learning about research and how it relates to policy, all that good stuff. And then your final 2 years are going to be dedicated to your dissertation proposal and the dissertation. Like I said, our PhD program cohort typically falls in anywhere between 4 and 7 students. We typically get about 60 applications every year. So at this time, we like to touch a little bit on what the student experience is really like here at the school. As you see here, we have a few, I guess, little tidbits of information about what the student experience is like. Of course, obviously, there's opportunities for research. You can get as involved as you would like to at any point in time. There are also resources across UT Austin that you can take advantage of, whether it's research opportunities, teaching assistantships, all that good stuff. And then we also have our partnership with the LBJ Library. We're very fortunate to have the Presidential Library as a partner to put on events for our students. A lot of the things that we as a school strive to do and strive to provide is done in part with the library. So we're very fortunate to have them as a partner. Now at this point, I would like to briefly stop sharing my screen and introduce our 2 current students here. Jack and Carolina, are y'all there? All right. Carolina, why don't you go first? Why don't you tell everybody just kind of why you applied for the LBJ school, maybe some of your favorite classes, what your interests are, all that good stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Carolina. I am a second-year Master's of Public Affairs student. My focus is on food and agriculture policy, which is not really something that UT is necessarily known for, right? Like, we're not the land grant university. But I decided to apply to the LBJ school because I knew a number of alums and they had a lot of really good things to say. So originally when I applied, I was a dual degree student with the Community and Regional Planning program that's housed under the School of Architecture. And coming in, I really thought, you know, that was going to be a little bit more what I would be interested in and excited about, and that the LBJ school was like a nice add-on and has, like, you know, a little bit more prestige around it. And I was like, I don't even really understand what public policy is, honestly. So I knew from the second that I attended the admitted students course or lunch or whatever it was that the LBJ school was the place for me, because it attracts people from all over the place who are incredibly smart, incredibly passionate, incredibly knowledgeable people who have all kinds of different policy backgrounds. And my classes have been awesome. I can't speak highly enough for my experience at this program. My favorite class last year, I never would have thought that I would say this, but microeconomics, applied microeconomics was an incredible class and it kicked my butt and it was so great. I learned so much. And then we also have some really incredible faculty. So I was able to take the year-long policy research project class with Jack, actually, and our professor, Raj Patel, who is a pretty well-known academic in the food world. So what else is there to say? This summer, I was a summer transition chair for incoming students because I really love the fact that the culture at the LBJ school is incredibly collaborative, and I wanted to make sure that that was sort of translated into the incoming class. And we've really come together as a whole school, you know, like bound together by the fact that COVID is ruining all of our lives. And so there's a lot of just support, both emotional and academic. And what else have I done with the school? So that's kind of been my involvement with the school. And then and then over the summer, I was able to receive a fellowship to be able to do an unpaid internship with Travis County, which is the county where Austin is, because that was something that I hadn't gotten a chance to work for local government, and it was something that I was interested in. You know, county budgets can be tight, so they weren't going to be able to offer me a stipend, but through the LBJ school, I was able to have some money coming in to support myself outside of, you know, outside of that without having to get another job. So love the LBJ school. Hope that you consider it and consider applying, and happy to answer any questions. I can put my email address in the chat if you have any questions. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Jack, are you ready to introduce yourself?
Happily. Hi, everyone. My name is Jack English. I'm from San Francisco originally. I'm a dual degree structural engineering and MPAS student. I'm in my 3rd year. This is my final year at LBJ. The great thing about the dual degree program, at least for engineering, and a great many of them, are the rules aren't very stringent in the classes you take, so you're able to maintain a relationship with both schools that you're in. So every semester that I've been at LBJ, I've taken classes in both the engineering school and the public affairs school, and that's been really, really convenient. One of the primary reasons I came to LBJ was because this was the only school that had both public policy and management sort of degree, and then also engineering, where they had a dual degree track already set up. My undergraduate degrees were in political science and structural engineering also, so I was looking to follow in those footsteps. And this was the only school I found. And after reaching out to some old alumni who had done the same track as me, and then looking at the sorts of classes that they took, I just realized this was the best option. And then I also noticed that this would be an opportunity to go live in Austin for at least 3 years and experience a different city than San Francisco or Cleveland, where I did my undergrad. So that was a really good opportunity. Can only echo completely Carolina's point about the faculty here. Like, every faculty member I've had at LBJ has been really, really awesome. I've really gotten into the financing and infrastructure related courses with Dr. Luby. And I actually did research with him over the summer about the impact of COVID on budgets for the state of Texas and local governments. So that's been really interesting. Yeah, LBJ has definitely like helped do that grad school job of making you realize there's even more things that you're interested in, which is, it spreads out the amount of things you're interested in, but it also really focuses you in on some of them and helps you decide like what you're looking at for a career. So it's been really helpful for that. Anything else, Amy, I should say?
I think that was great. Yeah, thank you both. I did put Jack and Carolina, I think Carolina put her own email address in there, but I did put, you can reach out to Jack or Carolina or any of our student ambassadors at LBJ student ambassador at austin.utexas.edu. Jack and Carolina were very gracious to provide them with their UTexas email addresses as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I will let y'all get back to, I'm sure, what will be a very busy day of homework or work or other things. So thanks so much for joining us today. All right, so we'll get back to our presentation. Let me get back to sharing my screen with you guys. There we go. So anyway, like I said, our students are very, they really like to seize the opportunities that the school provides for them. And so I think Jack and Carolina are great examples of students who've really gotten their hands dirty in real-time research that's going on at the school. I would say if you have any questions for them, or even if you're just kind of thinking about public policy, they'd be great, I guess, ambassadors for the school, and could happily connect you to whoever you want to reach out to. They both kind of touched a little bit on this, but I'll go ahead and provide you with this list. This is the list of research centers that the LBJ school is affiliated with. Some of these are located inside of the LBJ school. in our physical building, and some of them are housed elsewhere across campus. But all of our faculty typically do research for some of these research centers. In this picture here, we have, I believe that's Professor Peniel Joseph, who is affiliated with the CSRD, the Center for the Study of Race and Democracy Research Center, and they've been very active in terms of providing programming for our students. You'll see the LBJ Washington Center on this list as well. So the Washington Center, where our DC students, I guess, go in the second half of their program, also does some federal policy research too. If you're interested in any of these research centers, feel free to Google them, and I'm sure you'll find connections, faculty affiliations, all that good stuff. Or you can email us at LBJ Admit, and we can do what we can to connect you. We keep talking about the opportunities at the school, and these are just some examples of some of the people who have come in the last year or so to speak to our students. Most notably, Hillary Clinton came, I guess that was 2 years ago now, to meet with a small group of about 50 students. There was a nice, I guess, fireside chat with our dean, Angela Evans, and then she did a much larger talk, a much larger conversation with the dean, and all of the students, all of the staff, faculty, LBJ friends, I guess, were all invited to kind of hear her talk. And so that was something very memorable for our students, for sure. There are also opportunities to engage with the community outside of the classroom. Pictured here, you'll see we've got a student reading to students at the Barbara Jordan Early College Prep Elementary School in Austin. Barbara Jordan Week is a huge deal here at the school. I believe it takes place in February. That's a really great way for our students to give back to the community and educate them about the legacy of Barbara Jordan. And then, of course, I believe Caroline and Jack also both mentioned this, but they also mentioned their PRP, the Policy Research Project that they did with Professor Raj Patel. Those sorts of opportunities often allow students to travel internationally, sometimes locally, sometimes domestically, but every now and then there will be one that will travel internationally. I believe we had one group that went to Mexico. We had another group that went to India. So there are a lot of opportunities to get out there and be sort of this, I guess, policy maker in the making, so to speak. Our faculty are truly experts. They're practitioners. They are molding the lives of the next generation of problem solvers, I guess. We are very fortunate to have faculty members who are so active in the local community. Vicki DeFrancesco Soto is pictured here on the right, in the green, but she is frequently on CNN and other national programming, giving her breakdowns of what's happening in terms of voting rights and all that good stuff. We have just some of the best faculty and some of the most open door focused faculty. So they are really trying to get students in and meet with them and tell them a little bit about what it's like here at the school and tell them a little bit about their work. So I think that our faculty are very open to meeting with prospective students, especially. So if you're thinking about trying to connect with somebody in particular, feel free to do it. Even though we are not physically at the school, we are more than happy to talk to you. We'll talk a little bit about career services. We do have in our office, the Office of Student Affairs and Admissions, we do have a career services team. As of right now, it's one person, but we are hoping that it will be two soon. That provides our students with all sorts of labs, workshops, resume reviews, mock interviews, all that good stuff. Colleen Gleason is our career services specialist here at the school. She does a fantastic job of providing diverse, robust programming for our students. She really is trying to bring in employers that students want to go and work at some point. And so she really is kind of very dynamic in that way. She's trying to constantly get feedback and constantly hear from our students. Okay, we're really interested in state and local internships, or we really want private sector consulting or nonprofit management or global development. So she really is constantly working and trying to bring in robust programming that really sets students up for a job post-graduation. She often works with students very early on, so even sometimes before they actually enroll at the LBJ school. So she's happy to sit down and once you're admitted, take a look at your resume, take a look at your cover letter, help you find an assistantship. Typically, she spends all summer kind of working with our incoming class to make sure that they're ready to go for fall. I mentioned our active alumni network. We do have an alumni mentorship program where students can opt in to receive an alumni mentor. This is somebody who typically has a similar policy interest, maybe works for an organization you're interested in, maybe lives in a part of the world that you would hope to be in one day. We do an intensive match process to make sure that you're tied to somebody, or that you're matched with somebody who really, I guess, is going to help you. And so we often try to provide programming where you can meet with our local alumni, but oftentimes there are alumni across the world that want to give back in that way. So if you're admitted and you're thinking about trying to connect with people, this is a great way to do that. We also have some internship stats for you. This is from, I guess, 2 years ago. We're working on getting this last year's internship data in the PowerPoint, but it takes a little bit of time to run those numbers. So as you can see, a lot of our students pursue public sector internships for our public affairs program. We do have some that go nonprofit, and then we have a few that do private sector consulting. Deloitte hires a lot of our students to serve as government and policy consultants. And then I think Facebook is another one that will recruit out of the LBJ school as well. For our global policy studies program, it looks a little bit different. Most of those go on and work in private or nonprofit work, or in some cases, private or public sector work. A lot of our students in the MGPS program have goals of working in national security and intelligence of some kind. Some of them go on to do State Department internships. So just kind of I guess an idea of what some of our students go off and do. In terms of job placement, it looks a little different. As you can see, there's quite a bit of other sectors there listed. And like I said, you'll have access. I will send this PowerPoint out to everybody who registered today to make sure that you'll have a copy of this. But just a few things worth noting. A lot of our students, just given that we're in the state capital of Texas, a lot of them stay in Austin and work in local government, or work in state government as well. So I think the proximity to the state capital is certainly a driving factor in why you see those numbers a little higher than the others, but that certainly doesn't mean that you're tied to working for state or local government here in Texas. You could certainly find positions anywhere. We understand that going to the LBJ school and going to grad school in general can be expensive. And so Carolina mentioned our internship fellowship program, which is a great way to take advantage of opportunities that might not be paid, but will still be solid opportunities for you. What we're going to focus on mainly about in this slide is our admissions fellowships, and those are typically awarded in one of three ways. They can either be a stipend paid directly to you, tuition paid directly to UT on behalf of you, or tuition waivers that waive the out-of-state portion of your tuition bill. When you're admitted, you typically have all of this broken out in your acceptance letter. It will say you've been awarded X amount, and this is when you'll get each of these amounts, and this is how we distribute it out to you. There are obviously students who apply to the school who do not receive funding at the time of admission. Certainly does not mean you will never receive funding. It just strictly means that at this time you are not being awarded funding. So we have students who apply who, you know, maybe 3 months later get funding from us, and that's totally normal. That's okay. We want to make sure that our pot is distributed as I guess as wide as possible. So if you ever have questions about funding, feel free to let us know. We're happy to connect you to the fellowships office here at the school. We do not oversee the funding process, our fellowships office does, but they're happy to help if you have questions during the application process. So now we'll kind of transition into program prerequisites in the application process. Laura, are there any questions that I need to address before I get to this next portion?
Thanks for checking, Amy, but we're all caught up on questions.
Good deal. All right. So as you have probably seen on our website, we do have a few simple prerequisites listed, and I'll kind of go over them a little bit. Essentially, for our public affairs program, we have listed as the successfully passing the statistics and algebra validation exam during orientation. I think a lot of students kind of see that and panic a little bit, and that's okay. Essentially, what that means is that we are going to provide you with an exam, typically the first day of orientation, sometimes before that. It is not for a grade. It's not going to go in your transcript. It's simply just an advising tool. It's a way for us to, I guess, see where you are quant-wise, and then we can use that to advise you on what classes to take in your first semester. In order to prepare for this exam, we do provide all of our students with free online access to ALEX, which is an online math readiness program. It's administered by Professor Pat Wong. So, you know, I think a lot of students kind of panic a little bit, but then when they have access to this program, I think it eases a lot of their concerns. Obviously, a lot of our students may not necessarily come from a super quant heavy background, and that's okay. This exam is simply just designed to help us put you in a class that makes sense for you. For our Global Policy Studies program, we do have a 4-semester foreign language requirement. This has to be 4 semesters of college, typically undergraduate level foreign language. There are a few ways that you can achieve this. One is taking 4 semesters of an undergraduate foreign language. This can be done at a 4-year institution during your undergrad. It can be done at community college. It can be done anywhere, basically. You can test out of your proficiency based off of Rosetta Stone or Duolingo or things like that, where you've maybe built up enough proficiency to take a test. Or if you already know of a foreign language, like maybe English is not your first language, maybe you took, I don't know, 7 years of Spanish or something like that, you can test out of it that way too. So this requirement, what I'll say is really important here, this requirement does not have to be met to be admitted. It only has to be met once before you graduate. So you have plenty of time to obtain that foreign language proficiency. For our PhD program, we only require that you have a master's degree. We do accept a JD in lieu of a master's degree, and we do encourage you to have a little bit of work experience. And then for our EMPL program, I haven't touched too much on this program. It is administered through another department here at the school, but they typically require a minimum of 7 years of experience in either the public or nonprofit sectors. If you have questions about the EMPL program, please feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to connect you with the graduate program coordinator over there. This is kind of hot off the press. We have decided as of this week that we are going to offer a one-time temporary waiver of the GRE. What this means for you, this is only applicable to fall of 21 applicants. And it just basically means that the GRE is optional for this cycle. So if you have GRE scores already or are scheduled to take the exam, obviously see how you do. If you do great, then awesome, send us those scores. If you are dreading it and don't want to mess with it, that's okay too. We will not require it for our applicants in this cycle. As like I said, as you are welcome to submit them. This is only applicable to the GRE, so that unfortunately means that it's not applicable to the TOEFL exam, which we still do require. So now some application requirements. This is what's set in place by the graduate school at UT. And so basically we do our admission review and then we send our recommendation over to the graduate school, and the graduate school does a check for all of these various things. They're basically checking to make sure, A, do you have a bachelor's degree, and is it from an accredited institution? Or if it's not from the US, is it the equivalent of a US, I guess, bachelor's degree? They're checking to look at your GPA. So what they're taking is the last 60 hours of your undergraduate degree and trying to evaluate, is it above a 3.0? And if it is, then you're okay. And if it's below a 3.0, you're what we consider admitted with conditions. So if you're admitted into the program, you have below a 3.0, you basically have to abide by certain conditions in your first semester to have those conditions removed. Certainly is not a bar for entry, but it is just something to keep in mind. The graduate school does calculate these GPAs and then sends that information over to us. So we unfortunately can't evaluate transcripts on their behalf. They will handle all of that sort of behind the scenes. And then, as I mentioned, the GRE is not required for this cycle. If you have scores, great. If you don't, that's fine too. And then we'll talk a little bit about these additional program requirements. So for transcripts, I think this kind of confuses a lot of people. So I'll try to make this clear, but if you have questions, feel free to let me know. You only need to submit transcripts from any four-year institution you've attended. So you won't need to submit community college transcripts. You won't need to submit, as long as it was a four-year institution, you'll need to submit those transcripts. If it meant that you studied abroad for a semester, I would recommend reaching out to the Graduate and International Admissions Center, because depending on how those classes, I guess, are all listed on your transcript might determine whether or not you need to submit a foreign transcript. Essentially what you'll do is you'll request an official paper copy of your transcript issued to you. At that point, you will take that transcript and then scan it into your what we call our My Status portal. So essentially you'll get access to that after you apply. And then you'll have the ability to upload documents through that portal. So you'll have to have it administered to you. Don't have it sent to the school yet, but do send it to yourself. For test scores, typically takes about 4 to 6 weeks to receive test scores. So plan ahead if you are going to plan on taking the GRE and you want to hit our first deadline. It's important to have the test taken typically by November 1st. If you're hoping to hit that March 15th deadline, then I would say no later than February 1st. You just want to provide yourself with enough time to get those test scores to us. They must be valid for 5 years. Or they are valid for 5 years. If you took the GRE any later than, or I guess any earlier than 2014, they will not be considered valid. TOEFL scores are only valid for 2 years. And then for our other documents, the resume, letters of recommendation, statement of purpose, all that good stuff, you have the opportunity to list your letters of recommendation during the application process. However, you do not have to. It's not a required field. So if you are not sure about who you're going to ask, that's okay. We'll go ahead and take letters of recommendation that are emailed to the Graduate and International Admissions Center. Your resume and your statement of purpose can be submitted directly through your My Status portal. You will not need to email anything to anybody. And then for letters of recommendation, we do require 3. Typically, we say about 2 academic, 1 professional, but if you don't have academic references or professional references, any reference who can attest to your academic abilities or even your professional abilities is fine. So supervisors, maybe a project manager, if you did an assistantship of some kind, maybe your supervisor from that. Basically, we're not really looking for letters from friends, from family, from, in some cases, colleagues. You just want to make sure that it's letters from people who can attest to your academic abilities and your interest in pursuing grad school. We do have a few deadlines for you to keep in mind. Our priority funding deadline is December 15th. What this means is that if you apply and have a complete application on file by December 15th, you will be guaranteed a review for the largest possible pool of funding at the LBJ school. It does not guarantee funding, but it does guarantee you a review for funding. So that funding will continue to be dispersed until it is no more for the year. Our PhD deadline is also December 15th. And then our final application deadline for our master's program is March 15th. So if funding is of importance to you, I recommend getting everything in by December. If you're just kind of, oh, I'm still on the fence, or oh, my school is being paid for by XYZ, that March 15th deadline is okay too. I will say we do not typically review applications before December 15th. So keep that in mind as well. There's not, I guess, a rush to submit an application on file, ASAP. So once December 15th rolls around, we'll take a look at what applicants we have, and then we'll start reviewing at that point. And then, of course, you have the opportunity to connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. If you haven't already, give us a follow at the social media handles listed below. And then I guess at this point, here's some contact information for you. Again, I will go ahead and send this out so you don't have to write everything down. But I guess at this point, we'll go ahead and open it up for Q&A. Do we have any questions?
Amy, I'll ask you this one. A student recently just put in the Q&A chat, and while I type it, we get this question asked a lot. So talking back about the transcript requirement for the application process, if you can talk a little bit about if someone were to be applying straight from undergrad, they don't have their final transcript yet, what that looks like, and also transcripts from previous institutions, like if they got dual credit in high school, is that required? Or if they took a lower level class at a different institution, what are all the pieces that are necessary?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll touch first on students applying straight from undergrad. Basically how that will look is you'll need to still submit a transcript. It obviously won't be complete, but you'll submit a transcript. When you're admitted, you will be required to submit another transcript anyway. And so at that point, you'll wait until your degree is conferred and then submit that transcript. Typically after graduation, so if you're planning on graduating in May, you might want to wait until like late June to go ahead and request it. Just to give your registrar's office some time to process the degree conferment. You just basically want the transcript to list that the degree is been awarded. A lot of our students come directly from undergrad, so we're kind of used to reviewing applications that might feel a little incomplete just because you haven't finished your undergrad yet, but totally fine. I guess the second part of that question is dual credit courses. If you took dual credit courses through a community college, you will not be required to submit those transcripts because you'll only be required to submit transcripts from four-year institutions. Typically, when you have dual credit, it's already listed on the transcript as having been awarded. Now, if you did, let's say, dual credit through UT Austin, for example, since UT Austin is a four-year institution, you would be required to submit a transcript from them. When you fill out the application, you'll basically line by line kind of go through your educational history. And then the system essentially determines at that point whether or not you need to submit a transcript. So when you fill out the application, just list every school you've attended. And then when you get access to your My Status portal, it'll basically give you a rundown of, okay, you need to submit your UT Austin transcript. You need to submit your Texas A&M transcript. You need to submit your Texas Tech transcript. So at that point, you'll know for sure what you need to submit. But if you have questions, the Graduate and International Admissions Center is a great resource for transcript questions too. So.
Thanks, Amy. Another great question came in. Can you highlight the difference between MPATH and MGPS? Maybe highlighting kind of the difference again in the degrees specifically, and then the career trajectory.
Yeah, so The empath program is going to, the core curriculum for the empath program is going to focus mainly on your, like, I guess, looking at policy through a domestic lens. So typically students in the empath program have an interest in state and local government. Carolina and Jack, who we both spoke, who we both heard from, are current students in the empath program, and they both have done internships and stuff with different state agencies. It's not necessarily limited to working with state agencies, but that's just mainly what the curriculum is geared towards. Apart from the core curriculum, the empath program is really up to you what you want to make of it. So if you're interested in, let's say, housing policy, for example, and you want to take a few housing policy courses, or you want to take a course through government or business or whatever, like, you have that flexibility to do that. Students in this program typically go on and pursue, like I said, state and local kind of careers, not necessarily in politics, but typically in like advising and policy, things like that. We do have a few students who go off and do private sector consulting as well. We had one student who did an internship with Facebook. We had another student who did an internship with, a lot of them do various internships with the city of Austin, transportation, Travis County Health, all kinds of places like that. And then for the Global Policy Studies program, it's going to be a little bit more international. So the core curriculum is going to focus on international policy, international relations, those kinds of things, intelligence, defense, national security, things like that. So with the core curriculum for that program, you're going to have a little bit more of a broader scope of how policy impacts the world. You'll take classes in like global development, you'll take classes in understanding how nations interact with each other. And then the internship trajectory for that program typically is going to be internationally focused. Not necessarily international in the standpoint of like you have to go and leave the country, but you do have the opportunity to work for organizations that are focused a little bit more on international relations. So they don't necessarily have to be here in the States, but they don't have to be elsewhere, but they can be here in the States too. Students in that program typically go off and pursue, a lot of them do nonprofit work and global development. A lot of them get positions with the State Department. A lot of them go and work in DC. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, in both. And these are obviously, of course, just a small glimpse of what our students go off and do. I think the beauty of having an interdisciplinary program like us is that you take away all these different skills and all these different things that interest you, and you can really kind of make it your own. I hope that was helpful.
Absolutely. A few of the questions coming in are a little bit more specific. What would you recommend? So if an applicant, let me rephrase that. Because we're moving to GRE optional, who would you recommend should submit GRE scores?
That's a great question, and one that I think we've gotten asked quite a bit since we made this announcement. I would say, if you've already taken the GRE, go ahead and submit your scores. If you've taken the GRE and you feel good about your scores, send the scores. If you have not taken the GRE yet and know that you are not going to do well, no sense in spending all of the money to take the exam. If you feel like your GPA is relatively low and feel like the exam could be your opportunity to, I guess, put some additional academic work out there, I would say definitely consider taking the exam. I think for a lot of students, they get a little intimidated by the fact that it's a timed test. And maybe they haven't taken a quant class since high school, maybe they haven't taken a class in 10, 15 years. And so I would just, I think it'll really have to be kind of an evaluation of how you view yourself, right? If you feel like your GPA is in a good shape and you have strong recommenders and you have strong statement of purpose, then save the money and don't worry about it. But if you feel like it could help in some way, if you feel like you have time to devote to studying for it, or if you feel like you could really use or at least want to try, certainly worth it, I think.
Great. And you may have just said it, but if you wouldn't mind to repeat again the average GRE scores that we do see.
I have not said it. Thank you for reminding me. So typically for GRE averages, we see about a 156 verbal, a 154 quantitative, and a 4.5 writing. We admit above and below that. So if you don't hit those numbers, it's not the end of the world. We understand that, again, the GRE is a timed test and not everybody does well on timed tests. And so we really pride ourselves on like a holistic admissions review process. So not necessarily having a minimum GPA or a minimum GRE score. We really try to pride ourselves on taking a look at the applicant as a whole and making that evaluation from there.
A few people have asked about rejection in one cycle over the other. So I am happy to answer this, that yes, please apply again, and being rejected from the program does not impact the decision in the next year. Our admissions committee really does just take a look at this cycle. If you were to not receive admission, we would recommend updating your application materials, getting new recommendations, taking steps to better your application rather than just submitting with the same materials. And additionally, if you're interested in a dual degree and let's say you got into LBJ but were denied from the law school, you're welcome to start at LBJ and reapply for that dual degree. They don't have any impact on each other year over year.
Yeah, that's a great point, Laura, about reapplying, especially given that now we're not requiring the GRE. Something to keep in mind too, that a lot of our committee changes every year. So a new set of eyes will look at your application.
This is a great question to maybe wrap up on. What characteristics of a potential applicant would really set them apart from the cohort and make a great application?
Oh gosh, I would love to know your thoughts on this, Laura, but I'll take a stab at it first. I think the students who, this is going to sound very cheesy, but I think the students who are successful here, get admitted and are successful here, are students who are willing to listen and to learn. Obviously, there's not really an easy way to convey that in the application, but I think we're really looking for mature applicants who maybe not necessarily know what they want to do after graduation, but know the steps they want to take to get there. So if getting a master's degree is something that you're really strongly considering, letting us know that, letting us know what it is about the LBJ school that excites you. You listened to two students today who, admittedly said, like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but once I got here, like, I knew I was with good people and I knew I was learning from good people. So, we're not necessarily looking, you don't have to have it mapped out. I would say have somewhat of a vision and just allow that vision to change. Our goal here is to really engage you in conversation and really show you what it means to be a policymaker. And we really have the benefit of having some of the best practitioners in the world teach here. So I hope that kind of answers the question, but I would love to know what you think, Laura.
The only thing I would add is we are proud of our students, and I think the dynamic culture that we are attempting to create here at the LBJ school is something that we take a lot of pride in. So come ready to work hard, to collaborate, and to go on to be a world changer. That's what you can expect from the LBJ school. So finding a way to convey your anticipation of becoming a person like that would be ideal for your application. Amy, we've reached our time limit, so I'm going to go ahead and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge of the LBJ programs and application process, and reiterate to all of our participants today to please reach out if you have more specific questions on what you're interested in pursuing. Myself, Amy, and another colleague of ours, Gwen, monitor the LBJ admit email that Amy has posted in chat. So memorize that, reach out to us anytime, and we look forward to seeing your application.
All right, thank you guys. I will send out this PowerPoint presentation today before I log off for the day, but I do thank you all for coming today. That was really great, so thank you.